I'm blurry.
Oh my God, I
I'm
can't even
blurry.
see. You're so blurry. You're fine.
Why does it seem like you guys are closer? Like
Did we all choose the same office too?
Yeah, we did.
we're in the same spot in different what is it, the multiverse?
Mhm. I want everybody to,
Fantastic.
as we wait for the awkward minute, we could easily, by the way, buy software that has the pre-roll thing saying the webinar starts in 5 minutes, but I refuse to. I like the awkward minute beforehand.
Yeah,
I
there
I
should
love
be backing music.
the backing music would be great. I would like to understand why a lot of times we choose to take our webinars and meetings from a conference room as if that's how normal people do their stuff. Just
Isn't this
like
a lobby?
it's a lobby. We're taking a webinar from a
We're
lobby.
doing we're doing a lobby meeting. Nobody's walking through the lobby though. It's one of those fronts.
30 seconds to the awkward minute. Hey everybody, we're almost there. We're almost ready to get started.
Oh, people are coming in.
Yeah,
Hey, hey.
you don't get to talk. Nobody knows you yet. We don't have a hot receptionist. It's me.
I mean, there you go.
Well, you know. All right, time for screen shares. Hey guys, I'm loving the good mornings. I wish we got more good mornings. Let me do this. Let's talk about who we are. Hopefully, you know, but if not, we got a lot of stuff to cover. So I'm going to kind of zip through things this month. Okay, gentlemen on the call that I can hear your voices. Can you see that okay?
Yes, sir.
Sweet. All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us for the May office hours. I'm Ricky Cecchini, the VP of Product at CloudRadial. With me, of course, is Evan Griffith, fan favorite, product manager at CloudRadial. That's the guy. And then I brought special guest star last month. We had Jeff Ferris talking about automations. This month, we got Jared Woodward, channel success manager. He does all the implementations with a couple of the peeps, but he does a lot of them. And he's going to be talking about Planner, which was the requested topic of the month. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Say what up, Jared?
Hey guys, how's it going? Yes, Planner, the all too great feature that needs to be looked at and given more love. So
And that's
we're
what we're
here
going to
for
talk
it.
about. That's it. That's why we were summoned today. We're going to talk about some of the obviously things we've been working on, kind of some direction stuff, but also this is a pretty good one if you have ideas, input, thoughts, blah blah blah. Now's a great time to do it. If you're watching this after the fact, you're watching recording, again, as always, I'll repeat this like 3 or 4 times in case you zone out multiple times. You're not screwed, right? We do the poll and everything after the fact. So if you don't make it, no big deal. You still get a voice here. Real quick recap. If you've never been to an office hours, it's kind of casual. I don't know if you could tell. Look at Evan's shirt. Back up. Show me your shirt. It's cool. Little dinosaurs on it. That's nice.
It's a fan favorite.
That's pretty good. All right. What are office hours? They're obviously a place to learn what's going on. A way to talk to us, not super formal. Some best practices. I want to point that out because we're going to talk about the planner again. Today's or this month's discussions of the planner. What it's good at today, what we're trying to make it good at, and again, input of where we think it kind of fits in the realm of CloudRadial being a big multifunction tool versus like, you know, dedicated VCIO tools and kind of where the best fit is there. Obviously, if there's any thoughts you guys have in general, share them, right? And then just chit chat amongst yourselves, seeing some guests, and then, yeah. And if you need any support, if anything comes up from this, again, we take the comments, take the polls, take all that stuff. If we don't get to it right there and then, just because we're on a roll or because I make too many jokes, we do go back and answer the stuff. So again, chuck your thoughts in there and we'll get to them, promise. Okay, since we got to roll kind of fast to get through all the cool topics today, I'll go through the interesting but less interesting thing, which is product update. I want to talk about what we did last month and kind of how that affects everything and then kind of what we're looking at for the future. So I'll share this. I'll just throw this on the screen real quick. Let's do that. Can everyone see that? Can you guys see that, or does that still show on the PowerPoint?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right, great. So last month we culminated in something we've been working on. We talked about, again, last month's office hours was about the better bit of automations. The big thing is that we officially launched our PSA projects module, which means that we can now display projects, at least our V1 version that is out in public. It is no longer behind beta. I mean, it is now public beta, actually. But just talking about what we did and why we did it, the big 3 things that we did is we got ConnectWise and Autotask, which make up the majority of our partner base. We do have obviously many other PSAs supported, and we were able to show those projects and show those project tickets for a very, very quick glance at that, just to remind people what that actually looks like. If you have those two PSAs, it's going to look almost identical to this. If you head down to account and projects, there is a section, again, that will display set tickets. I'm sorry, set projects here. And the idea is that we thought it was a pretty natural fit. We had a lot of feature requests for it. Somebody goes in, somebody clicks on a project, and they go like, oh, this one, what's going on with it? And then it gives them some details, you know, again, the description, some high level stuff. If there's any open tickets to that, they can also click on the latest one. This displays just the latest one for now. And then the idea for us is keeping in CloudRadial methodology, because our whole shtick is that we're collaborative and we want the client to engage and not just have a static, like, here's your project. It's kind of like the ticket area. So it's further down in the feature set, meaning this is not available to all users. This is more for point of contacts and stuff. They can talk back and forth. That's cool. And then they can see all the project tickets. It's not just the latest one. So kind of a simple view. I know that I've been diving around a lot of the PSA portals just to kind of understand what you get. A lot of the PSA portals like ConnectWise and Autotask go deeper with kind of more like Gantt-ish views. They kind of have some task views and all that stuff. But again, at our first attempt, we just wanted to do something super, super simple, super high level. And we have that. So we have that for ConnectWise and Autotask. For Kaseya, we kind of ran into some stickiness with the tickets being kind of slow to return, and the project experience was kind of meh. So I even say that in here going like, it's so-so. So we decided that the project overview was at least a good first start. Halo, we gave it a good shake, but the PSA API that we needed to really do it wasn't really available, and Synchro doesn't have projects. So that's why we did it the way it is right now. Again, totally open to revamp, totally open to rework. More feedback is welcome. And we're going to talk about some feature request stuff in a moment here with Evan, and why we've revamped a lot of our feature requests and kind of ideas portal to help make that a little bit smoother and help get those ideas to us better than just yelling in the wind. But please do that. So that's going to help us get to a better V2 and make sure that you guys are getting the max value out of those projects for your customers. Last but not least, I won't recap all of last month's office hours. That's still in the product update. Again, we did a lot of work on automations, meaning that we put up a GitHub with a bunch of public automations, so you can go in and kind of get some ideas on how to use those a little bit better. So adding users to 365, creating tickets and the PSAs, there's a lot of neat stuff. And there's more on that as well in a moment, and then some bug fixes, but that's the major stuff. Again, this month is going to be a little bit more promising, because I think this is the stuff that people have been asking for genuinely forever, which we're getting to, and we're really happy to talk about all of that. So let me bust out my PowerPoint one more time, make sure my notes don't make me forget anything. Oh yeah, there's a little thing I wanted to talk about, which is our new Portal 365 thing, which is kind of similar to Kaseya 365. Weird. How did that happen? Let's talk about that. So we went to Kaseya's conference, and I want to bust out my page. Did I mention this is unprofessional? This is an unprofessional webinar. We went to Kaseya's conference in Vegas a couple weeks ago. And then basically what happened there was we were just listening at what some of the biggest, you know, obviously Datto, Kaseya smushed together, what they're doing and what they're seeing. So with no shame in the game, we bum a lot of our research off of MSPs in the market, and then kind of like where trends are at off of ConnectWise and then Kaseya/Datto. And if anybody else puts out results, again, I have no problem taking Halo's research or Synchro's or whoever. But the big thing that they came up with was basically that there are more and more what we call emerging MSPs, which are the sub-$1 million MSPs that kind of are trying to figure their stuff out. And the sub-$1 million MSPs, which maybe you are one, maybe not, they're looking for kind of the max value out of the tools that they have that they can get, but also they can't really afford to go spending thousands of dollars per tool, right? So Kaseya's play there was Kaseya 365, which is trying to offer the bundle of their services, right? Getting some RMM, getting the PSA, getting backup and stuff, and as much of that as possible into as you know, a bundled offering that they can actually afford. So cheaper, but also kind of everything they need in one pack. And that is something that kind of makes sense. They dropped the price. They gave us the full bundle. But if you want to go get more advanced tools, best in class tools, whatever, you still can. But that was something. Now, how that relates to us and why we did what we did, and I want to talk about Portal 365 in addition to the old classics CloudRadial CSA stuff, is Portal 365. We were like, hey, this is going to tie in super well with our planner. We get a lot of requests to make CloudRadial better. And as you guys know, if I didn't flash it hard enough, there's a lot of CloudRadial to make better. There's a lot of features out there that we know are kind of mature, not that mature, pretty mature, and we need to kind of even that out. So as a product strategy, we want to make the portal better as a whole. We want to kind of polish. So we don't want to be adding a bunch of new modules and features because we know that what we have is pretty good. It just needs to be better quality for all around. Because if you can do that, theoretically, no shame in the game, but you could potentially ditch other tools. You could potentially consolidate, or just figure out like what you really like and make sure that you have a really solid version of the planner or assessments or tickets or whatever and really nail that. So we said, okay, that sounds good. How do you get the money to do that? How do you get people to fund your development without waiting forever or paying for things that they don't necessarily even want? So again, MSPA really wants tickets. MSPB couldn't care less about tickets. They're all about assessments and planner. They're not willing to fund each other's development because you want what you want. So with Portal 365, what we said is that, hey, we know our numbers and we know that the amount of emerging MSPs is growing. People are getting into the space more and more. But again, they're not necessarily going to enterprise. They're just starting out. They're just wanting that kind of bundle to begin. So what we said is like, hey, Portal 365 is basically the idea here is no hard competition against actual other tools in our space. We just said, hey, we want to offer something that is quintessentially across the board better than the built-in PSA portals, but without overwhelming people with so much onboarding, without so much stuff to set up. And we basically were like, the stuff that typically people come to us when they want to get CloudRadial and they want to improve on is just a better look. They want to have better forms. They want to have just kind of some interaction. They want to be more available, roughly. There's a lot more stuff to that, but that's the gist. So Portal 365 is $95 a month flat. There's no scaling up. There's no scaling down. It's just $95 a month. There is no onboarding because it's not that technical anymore, right? What we've done is we stripped out more of the VCIO QBR features that typically, I'll say typically because there's always an asterisk on that, the smaller guys don't necessarily need just yet, because you may not have account managers. You may not be running these full-fledged QBRs. You may not even really need full-fledged QBR software yet. So what you're going to see is this page is pretty awesome. It's featured client portal comparison. It's basically going to talk about the fact that like it strips out all the stuff that costs more to maintain and develop, and also is just the more mature stuff in CloudRadial. So all the stuff that, again, you want to come in and get. You want to get some CSAT, you want to get your portal on Teams, you want to get your forms looking just right. It's still got automations. It's still got a bunch of stuff that's really good. And we just stripped out the stuff that, again, even the bigger MSPs struggle with, which is like VCIO Planner or like the assessments and stuff like that. So the strategy for us on the heels of Portal 365, which we definitely didn't name to try to ride SEO coattails. I never said that. Who said that? Even though Hunter
Isn't
said
that like the point of SEO?
What are you talking about? I'm not a marketing guy. I'm a you see VP product. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Love it.
I do know like Hunter's had a great post about their thing going like Hunter's 366, and I was like, damn it, we should have done Portal 367. Like we can keep going. We can do this all day. Anyways, the idea was, if like we're going to talk about today, our goal is to take the partners that do care about planner, they do care about assessments, but you don't want to wait. We want to be able to offer a good portal that is, again, across the board better, that kind of gets that funding, gets the emerging MSPs the stuff they need, gives them a path to grow up in our product with other features, but also doesn't bog down the costs of the more mature MSPs. Because again, more mature MSPs don't need to chuck more money into CloudRadial to wait for us to develop it. So by doing these two paths, we're basically purposefully and openly saying the little guys get a better portal. That's cool. Their money basically goes to additional funding so we can get more developers and more strategists, more UI designers, whatever, to make those additional features better. So everybody pays for what they actually care about and what they want, right? It's something we probably should have done a long time ago, but again, we're on the heels and we're like, oh yeah, like Kaseya people, I guess, know what they're doing a little bit with that business. They're doing a lot with it. So there's that. So you might see more about that. We're putting out a bunch of stuff. It's still kind of like, it's literally just now coming out. So you'll see more marketing about it, whatever. More details about that offering in general. So if that is interesting to you, if you know a buddy that wants to get started but couldn't kind of hack the, about $700 kind of initiation with CloudRadial, that may be a good option to talk about and spread the word, because again, I think it's something pretty good. Another notable thing that we've done is, and this is the last bit I'll talk about Portal 365, is that when you look at our actual main offerings of CloudRadial, we have Starter, Professional, and Enterprise. Most people are on Professional. Some people are on Enterprise for some of the features. The Starter is pretty good. It's also $95 with a 100 user limit. I want to clarify why we have this one and this one that are kind of the same. Our thought process is when those emerging MSPs come to us and they say, I need a portal, I need to look good, that's probably our Portal 365 crew. Now, if an MSP, big or small, comes to us and says, I need the tickets, I need the QBR, I need all that stuff. But here's the thing, I don't want every single person loaded in the portal. I have 20,000 seats, but really I have like 50, 60 points of contact that I solely want in the portal. That's a good candidate for starter because you do get all the VCIO stuff, you do get all the planner stuff, but this is designed for you to kind of pick and choose the one per company type thing. So there is kind of a logic to each one of these people where as you go up, you kind of say like, hey, now I want more and more users. And now I have the admins, the users, I'm trying to do a bunch of automations in the enterprise. So hopefully as we kind of mature our product, as we mature our processes, the pricing and everything makes sense. And again, we're doing this on purpose to try to make sure that we don't overbill, bill too much, just figure out that people want to pay what they pay for, and we're trying to make it as fair as possible. So a shout out to Portal 365 as we keep developing it. So thank you for listening to my somewhat sales pitch, even though you guys are customers, so maybe not. All right. Whew. My AI assistant, I just monologued for 12 minutes. Can you believe that? Weird.
Solid.
You guys didn't say a word. All right, Evan, I'll throw it to you though, because I want to talk about our feature requests. This is kind of part of our product update. This is super internal to us, but like feature requests is something that we tried our best to clean up, gave up, tried, but Evan actually did it. And I'm super proud of him. And I want to talk about how you've kind of approached that whole hairball, if you will.
So let me go ahead and share my screen. We're getting a lot of questions in here too. So we'll definitely.
Yeah, and forgive me again, just because I know we have so much stuff to cover and I want to make sure the planner stuff too. Promise we'll hit all the stuff at the end for the Q&A. And if I don't get to it again, I do the old personal emails too. I don't mind that.
So can you guys see my screen?
Just a black screen that says you've started screen sharing. There we go.
Can you hear me? That's
Yeah.
also important. Okay,
Evan,
perfect.
by the way, is like from 1992 for some reason. We don't know why.
I never know if I can be heard or seen. Okay, so you may have noticed when you go to any portal, your portal specifically, if you can access feature requests right here. If you've done it recently, our ideas portal is updated a little bit. It looks a little sharper. It's basically been technically updated. So I just wanted to kind of show you guys around the new things. So if we go in here and add an idea, you guys can all add ideas. One of the things I recommend is like add your ideas. If you can't find an idea, add your idea. Because what happens is if you create an idea, you select the product. Most of you are here for CSA. Right when that idea is created and you categorize it, you tell me what you'd like to see. I'm going to see it. And I've created an unofficial SLA for ideas to be basically out of needs review in 2 weeks. So anything you create, I will see and I'll look at, I'll respond, or, I'll basically tag it and prepare it. So what I've given you now is a little bit more customization, I guess, or basically I'm forcing you to tell me more information. So you're going to tell me your idea, tell me what the challenge is, how do you think it'll impact either your company or multiple companies, and also then you can just describe further, and then choosing the category. I went with a really direct approach because I'm very that's just how I am. I've always been very black and white. So really, if you can find a location where this idea fits, put it in here, and if not, you can just pick the higher level category. But what that does is it gives me the ability to easily sort and place your ideas. So right now we have, like Ricky said, we have a big backlog of things that need review. And I've gotten basically anything that has 12 votes or more, I've reviewed. So the more votes, the better, because I will review anything with 12 votes, or I will review anything that has high votes. I mean, that's just how the whole process works. Most things cannot be predicted until they're in development. So right now, if we take a look at the ideas portal, if you're ever wondering what's coming up in CloudRadial next, it's going to be these things. These things are actively almost 100% guarantee. There is no guarantee, of course, but almost 100% guarantee that these are coming up in the next few months. Anything below that is really I'm trying to audit these planned items. You can see here, a lot of these items are in the planned state. If you ever see them move out of the planned state, it's because I'm still trying to audit them. I want to give you guys the truth. I don't want to keep like dangling things here just to, basically I want to try and get this down to everything under planned is up to that. So we're working on making sure that we really utilize this portal. So anything you ever want, if you can't find the request, add it here because I will get the notification and our team will basically always make sure that within 2 weeks, every new idea is going to be reviewed moving forward. And then they could turn into a project or a quick fix or something. So kind of what I wanted to show you in regards to our CloudRadial feature requests and our ideas portal. And if you ever have any issues, you can always reach out to our support team or anybody who you're working with. If you're working with Jared when you're onboarding or things like that, we're all pretty easy to get a hold of. So that's my update for the ideas portal.
Which is great because as we'll see now, we have a lot more ideas to go through. One, two, Jimmy, who may or may not be James. I don't know. Do you go by Jimmy? Have I been calling you James the entire time? I feel bad. But I'll take over again because I want to show you guys something that I think is pretty neat. So when we talk about the ideas and everything, James said something pretty interesting, which is, and this happens in all softwares, the squeakiest wheels get the grease, right? Which is the idea that like, if you're out there, you're loud, you're like, we need this. And like, it's kind of discouraging because unless you and a posse of 50 of your friends vote on your idea, you're wondering if it ever gets buried and you're like, what's the point, right? Which is,
we can see everything right now, Ricky. We can see even your internal notes.
oh my goodness, am I sharing the wrong screen?
This is super unofficial.
Oh, look, I even have taken pics. Don't look at my screen, guys.
Now
Don't look at my screen. Don't. But if I had just a bunch of swear words in order, that'd be cool. But I don't. Anyways, so let's talk about what it actually is, which is this. Rick's picks, which I would very, very much like to try to defend, quote unquote, the little guy, because I think I've seen some banger ideas that do get buried because they're pretty easy for us to develop. I mean, there's a whole product development methodology. Again, I know a lot of MSPs actually know a fair bit about product development because, again, the development and MSP worlds collide quite a bit. So we developed this concept of the Rick's pick, no ego, right? It just sounds great. So I figured that would be a tight name to call it. But a Rick's pick is basically where I go through with Evan and we say like, hey, yeah, there's ideas with 800 votes and that's awesome. But this one guy is a pretty easy idea. It's 2 votes. Is it worth it? It's like, sometimes it is, right? And that's how we got to where we are now, right? We didn't get here because we just listened to only the biggest, squeakiest wheels. We got here because a lot of the ideas that the little guys, even though who knows, have good ideas and they get buried. So a Rick's pick is, again, something that goes through, gets picked, and benefits as many people as possible if I can, or at least is easy enough that a developer can sneak it in to a cycle of, a week, 2 weeks, whatever. We try to make sure they're not just like massive monumental stuff. So I'm happy to say we've already been doing this, and this is the first office hours that I mentioned it because I wanted to make sure the process was actually down before I did it. So something that's been up there forever was ConnectWise ticket formatting. This caused a little bit of an issue for like 2 partners, but for the most part, it was good. We used to just straight up like block shoot all of the formatting into ConnectWise, where it was literally just like line. Now it's broken up, it's bolded, right? It's more like what you would expect. And that was heavily dependent on what the PSA support, but that was one of the Rick's picks. And I go like, hey, there's no reason we should be passing along crap. Let's pass along something legible. Again, those that have seen onboarding forms, like, will know what I'm talking about. If it's a 3 or 4 question form, sure. If it's like a 50 question form, you don't want a block of text that looks like it came out of Notepad, which is, we fixed that. Number 2, this is going to be out. It's already out, but we didn't make the development cycle because I think there were some bugs that got in the way, but as if I do any work. No. Add to planner automation activity came out. Add to planner automation activity is pretty killer because there was a feature or series of feature requests out there that people just generally wanted tickets to create planner cards. The use case for this, we decided to go with our automations because it's a lot wider and can be used in a lot more applications. The primary kickoff for that one was somebody goes to your service catalog, and I'll, again, professional my way out of this. Someone goes to your service catalog and they go like, hey, I want to add a user to a group. Well, fine, whatever. That's pretty easy. Let's just do that. But what if they want to do something like requesting training or have a suggestion for business improvement prior to, well, let's say the end of this week? What that does is it opens a ticket. Now, if you're a clever devil, you could probably figure out some way to go like, yeah, I have a system idea. Let's talk about this. Cool. And then rejigger the way that your routing works to do some crazy stuff, to bring up a ticket to a sales guy. Fine. You can still do that if you want to, but much easier, we thought, was to slap an automation on there going, by the way, create a planner card from this, from the set of stuff. So that way, ultimately what happens is they create a thing. Sure, it can create a ticket, but it creates a planner card too. So functionally, you can have them interact with the stuff that we know they interact with the most. We know that the service requests and the tickets and stuff get the most activity. To boost the planner, to make sure that that kind of all ties together, having that automatically get imported in from there works pretty well, which means that the more we do with automations and the more we kind of add this automation engine throughout CloudRadial, this planner card activity is going to help you make sure that some of the stuff that really matters, say you're using it in like a completely different area, like the policies, we have plans to do that. Maybe some of these aren't tickets, right? Solving a not enough memory issue might be a one-off upgrade issue. Cool. Another one might be like a bigger compliance thing that might warrant a full-on discussion. So maybe we add that to the planner. Maybe we add some automation behind that, and that is potentially very powerful. So that was two of the Rick's picks that we got for this month. Now, we already know what we're doing next month because, again, I'm tired of my poor Autotask crew getting. I don't even know if they know, but they are not getting the same treatment as ConnectWise, largely because we couldn't before. Now we definitely can. They're getting the ConnectWise treatment as far as better ticket formatting, so that'll happen. They're also getting contracts. For some reason, we have like not done that forever. You can't see your agreements, what we call ConnectWise, contracts and Autotask. Those two are getting beefed up. So if you're an Autotask customer, rejoice. We're making sure Autotask kind of levels up a little bit. Again, systematically going through and trying to make sure that we can scale that up to any PSA we work on. This is not just the ConnectWise Autotask show, but at least we get good templates. We learn a lot from the bigger PSAs, and then we kind of repeat that over. And well, I'm happy to say too that like this is part of my thing. Let me play my cool video. Downloaded this, so I'm definitely using it. There we go. Yeah, I want you guys to help me pick the Rick's picks. And again, the Rick's picks are not me going through and going, these are the top ideas. These are ones that I go like, that's pretty cool. But I figured that it would be nice for us as a community, as you guys are our customers and everything, to be able to pick from the stuff that I know is viable and cool, and then have that be something that we can all kind of vote on and choose. I still get final say, mostly because I know what deadlines we can hit, can't hit, all that stuff. But I really, really want to make sure that we reward people that do show up, that do have a say, and maybe to James's point, yep, there we go. Thanks. To James's point, get some ideas, and you don't have to be the biggest MSP with the most friends to get it. So we'll launch this poll. It'll kind of sit in the background as much as you want. This is the poll we do every month anyways, so it has 4 questions to it. First one's always like, what are you up to? What's going on with your MSP? Just talking about challenges to see if there's anything we can do as a software company, or just keeping a pulse on you to know. Second one's always should the next discussion be? So if you have something that you burning question, we can always cover that. The third one is this. The third one is a couple of really cool ideas that I think are relatively easy for us to bang out. We try to ship more than one a month. So if we're really good at this, you'll see me saying, pick your top 3 or pick your top 2, right? For right now, whatever. We know that user group mapping to 365 security groups would make user group management easy. I think we have a pretty decent way to do that. NCE contract dates add a little bit more pizzazz to licenses, and we can add policies and stuff to that, which makes that pretty useful, as pick number 2. Pick number 3 is conditional routing based on forms questions, which is pretty good too. We kind of have that, but I wanted to make it so it's like super easy to route it wherever. And then James already mashed number 4 as fast as possible, which is triggering question templates from conditional statements to make that pretty strong, making sure that you can make those forms a lot more useful if you can start triggering question templates, which means you can basically stack very complex things together without having to build every single form with very complex things. It's kind of a scalability play, but there we go. Now the last one, we're going to talk about planners. So let's go ahead and shift over, but if you could just go ahead and answer that poll as we go through, take your time, whatever, it should stay up for the entire time. I think it's time to give Jared some conversation, some airtime. What do you think, Jared?
Oh man, I've been waiting eagerly. But I did get a kick out of the auto task roar whenever you said you'd give him some love. I think I saw a "oh we know" come across very bluntly. So
It's weird
it's,
to get up on a webinar and go like, love me. And then people are like, you're literally barely doing your job. I'm like, I know. Can I get like a thank you? Attaboy is cool. Like, we'll figure it out. All
love
right.
it. Yeah.
Let's talk about
Anyways,
so I'm
yeah,
gonna set this up for us real quick. And I'm gonna
tee
interrupt
it
you
up.
5 more times first.
Tee me up, man.
All right. So we're talking about the planner. What I want to talk about, this is why I wanted to bring Jared here specifically. So again, Jared, despite his cool title, really does just a ton of implementations, and he's seen a bunch of these implementations. He knows what's good, he knows what's bad, he knows what MSPs struggle with. And I figured that as kind of a best practice / future of the planner, I want to talk about where we're at right now with you.
Yeah,
Cool?
of course. Yeah, man. So I think when we talked about this yesterday, a lot of the things you were kind of bringing up is what do MSPs struggle with the most, you
Yep.
know?
So like when we're sitting here and you're doing an implementation, I'll set this up too. You got the planner in front of you, somebody's talking about it. What do I do? Like what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah, of course. And that's usually the first question that a lot of teams come to me and they say, they're like, hey, we've got, all of these things we're doing, all these services, and we're pulling them apart from, this report from, we're getting a bright grade report to show our ticketing. We're pulling in, AB reports to prove that they're being protected. But the whole thing to say is you're staying ahead and keeping your client aware of what's going on with your relationship with them. The whole thing is to kind of pinpoint what are the services you're currently doing and what services you currently can provide, whether that be the base services you have or projects that appear and pop up out of nowhere. And so what we find is a lot of clients struggle with like showing the clients what it is that they're actually providing to them. And so the planner gives you a home, a place to visualize all of the services that you currently have in agreement with that client or currently want to offer them. And not even just the ones that you want to offer. Maybe it's things that, during that QBR that you've discovered in the moment. And so that is one of the key things that I would say is like when we had our discussion yesterday, Ricky, it was like, what are MSPs struggling with? And I really think it's that internal and external conversation. And when I say internal, it's getting the buy-in from your internal team that's handling the QBRs or TBRs. This is we call it killing the QBR because half of this process is getting away from the old way of doing it. We are now digitizing the experience, giving them a home to live in, and giving them a place with a color-coded word bank approach to see the services you're selling. And so, for instance, a client, you could sell a client on managed services and 5 months go down and they no longer know what managed services mean to you. And so they can jump into their portal, head on over to the installed column and immediately get a high level description of what that service is, the cost around those services, and why they're actually paying for them. And
Yeah.
so I think I just think that it's one of those things that that's the first step is the emerging side of the EML. Really, it's gathering all the information to prove to the client that this is what we're here for, and it's not just protecting or defending what we've done last quarter. It's here we go into the future.
So we, Evan, myself, and Jared all implemented, like, again, conservatively at least half a thousand MSPs at some point over the course of CloudRadial's entire like existence, at least. And what's always funny is that, like, again, I'm here, I sell the software. I'm also talking to you guys from behind the CloudRadial banner and everything. But I know that the challenge happens is that, like, we are, to summarize, which you said, Jared, because I know exactly that approach. I feel it in my heart is right, which is the planner is the culmination of the QBR. It's not the QB. I mean, it is a part of it, right? But there's so much to proving value, to building a plan, whatever. Like we roughly equate it to it. And what Jared's talking about is this word bank approach or whatever. Like a lot of these cards that you see here, like these static ones, are ones that I put. They're just like talking to people going like, yeah, we do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of employee training might be a service and compliance might be a service, managed IT. But like the truth is, as everybody on this call knows, it's not that clean. You don't really always have that perfect bundle of like, you buy package A, you get. We want it to be, right? Because if you can do that, then it is super scalable. But my question to you, Jared, I'm gonna put you in the hot seat, is it like, how many times have you gotten on a planner call where people go like, okay, I get that I'm supposed to be taking this approach. What do I sell? How do I, like, it's like, how often does that happen? It's just like, how do I?
Yeah, no, it is often, I would say, and a lot of time it's because you're not listening to the client or having the insight to approach them with things that are happening, are going to happen in the future. Really, it's inform in advance is really the best way I could say. A lot of times clients, they know you're trying to sell them something, right? They immediately know you're trying to sell them something, and that's why I said really that QBR, that or the planner tool, is meant to foster the conversation of what's going to happen beyond the services you're already currently doing, or about their business. Like, hey, what's, if you were to humor me, like, hey, Ricky, like, how's your business been,
Right.
and you might not know what managed Microsoft 365 backup is, but if I can get past that layer of like me trying to sell you something, and it becomes like a, well, hey, I might not know what that backup is or Meraki Wireless, but I do know I'm hiring 10 new people next month. That's where you immediately in the moment can add a new planner card right here and start listening to that client's needs, and immediately getting a service or a project on course for them. And once again, you're giving them a home to live in all that stuff. It's no longer a spreadsheet or an email or I think you need to have. It's basically a list of services that you offer as your MSP, as this is my core offering. And then here are the other things that you've asked me about as well. And then when you add in those compliance policies and the alignment stuff, that's when it really just starts soaring from the emerging to structured to really that informative level in the EML chain. Because once you can start telling clients, hey, if you only knew how bad you were in these areas, and they can see the information that represents that, that's when the lights start clicking and they start seeing the progress.
Yeah, and that's something that we know we want to get to. And I'll talk about software wise what we can do and what we can't do, or like what we're working towards. So like what we want to do software wise is we want to have that conversation be is, again, there's no like nice way to say it. Like, I want a robotic. I want something that's like super straightforward, that like, yeah, you basically, again, the word bank approach is such that people say things and you go, I have this issue, and you can kind of react, go, bam, I have this solution, bam, cool. And that's the ultimate goal of like prescriptive, super organized, whatever. So even when this is again the conversation part of this, when we talk about how you build your like little pre-built solution stuff, it's hard. And this is where CloudRadial's planner does not do a great job, but this is why we're trying to figure it out and ask you guys what you think. We know that because of that approach, it's hard to nail everything down. So we take a generalized approach. We have to go back further. We go much more non-technical than, it's direct VCIO tools, because what we're trying to do here is we're basically saying like, okay, we're hammering out the details later because this is your client portal, because this lives with all that other data. What we're ultimately trying to do is say like, hey, like, let's get some form of managed security in here. Now, do you need to list out every single tool, process, everything? Like, hell no. Like, no way. Not only will they not get it, but you don't even know if that's really what you're going to end up delivering, because you might have to craft something different for each one ultimately. So it's like almost like a lowest common denominator thing. But you and I were talking about the amount of times we get on those implementation calls and we say, let's build some planner cards. People go, I don't know what to put in a planner card, right? I know that you want me to do this thing where I go prescriptive, boom, card. What do I put? Do I literally start writing down details? And I want to talk about something we came up with yesterday. And let's just chit chat over that, which is, again, the planner is the ultimate, like, that's where you end up talking about it. But like really what we're after is like how you build up to the planner and build the use cases. So like, we're big fans of policies, and you said my buzzword, alignment, which is what we're going to be, where CloudRadial is going. Honestly, that's our direction of the company, of direction of our software, which is, we know that is the most profitable and the kind of more strategic thing that people want to do. They want to take the data that they have, could be from us, could be from a bunch of other tools, put it in a way that makes sense and build a plan that actually sounds good, looks good, feels good. Challenges to that. How do you build a story with a bunch of different data, right? How do you measure your clients across each other? So how do you know if client A is aligned, right? You see this in a lot of tools too. They do like a health score, 1 to 1,000.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then the other thing that we also see is that we pull my planner for visual reference, is that nobody wants to do double work, right? Nobody wants to go into multiple tools and you go like, I logged a bunch of stuff here and that doesn't talk to that. So I got to go back to that other tool and then I got to punch it all in again. So it's like, there's a couple of issues that we have to work through. And this is what I'm asking you fine folk. So when we talked about it, right, we talked about the policies, maybe starting off. So this is my own Rick's tips, and maybe Jared's too, because we talked about this together, but we talked about the idea that like, if you don't know what to put, a good approach, instead of having to come up with a full-on hammered out list of all your top services, is just seeing what people put out as far as like, you can see their tickets. Obviously you can see it in the PSA too, but like not in a fake company. Let's go to a real one. You can see their tickets. You can see the stuff that they have issues with. Summarization of that might lead you to find some core services to match those issues. That's one approach. Another one that we talked about was policies, right? So we have the policies and we know that the policies can roughly show you that like, hey, look, if everybody's failing strong authentication, the MFA issues, you have set standards and you keep seeing it over and over and over again that somebody's failing whatever, maybe that's cause to create a service. Maybe that's cause to introduce one. And that can be the way you start building your planner cards instead of just diving in, going a little bit of backup, a little bit of security, a little bit of whatever. That high level approach is kind of key. And the question that I'm going to ask you, yet again, hot seat you, Jared, is what can our planner do? Because we know a lot of stuff it can't do. What is our planner actually good at that other planners can't do that you've seen brought up in implementations a bunch?
Yeah, and it's really going to be that internal, external buy-in and collaboration. Really, it sounds so simple, but it's the collaboration piece. I've worked with a few partners recently, and like seeing their VCIO's mind open to the fact that they can jump into a client's portal and in one, basically working down from the infrastructure side of the feature set, opening up infrastructure and working down stack, basically jumping into a client and saying, all right, well, what domains do they have? What endpoints are we monitoring them for them? What's their network switches look like? What software are they have? What's their email usage look like? Their Teams voices, and basically compiling, like you said, Ricky, a story for that QBR, a client approached view of what's actually happening in their environments at any given time. And then giving not only your internal staff the power and the ability to sift through that content and feel powerful when they present it and say, hey, this is meaningful to us and should be for you as well. It's also flipping that on to the point of contact, and giving them the power to come in here and say, well, hey, not only do I want to do the managed services that Ricky sold me last week, he also mentioned, the employee training and education that was, a really sparked my interest. But now I want to actually kind of go in and see why he presented that. And really, that's the biggest thing I would really tell everyone. The planner is the what behind your conversation in that QBR. The second the client says, well, why do I want to pay you $5,000 a month for managed security? That's the why behind the conversation. And that's immediately when you should be going down stack from your compliance section and saying, well, here's the assessment we ran, where my team did a deep dive technical assessment on what's actually happening with your managed security. Or here's the policies that we ran in conjunction with our RMM tool. And now you can give them a visual representation of what's actually happening to the machines in their, do they have old technology? Do they have, do they have room for productivity depending on what they're using? All of this stuff comes back to the client and their business and them propelling, and you not defending what you've done last quarter or the quarter before. And honestly, just like I said, informing to advance them as a business. Because if you're ahead of it and you're, presenting these things and saying, hey, you mentioned that you're hiring the 10 people next month, that is another place for them to go back to and just feel confident in the fact that you are, once again, a structured MSP that's also informing them and bringing them to a place to where, the relationship feels like you're not just selling them things, you're actually providing benefits and resources.
Yeah. So I want to talk about, bring Evan in on this too, because we know what people want, right? Like, again, I'm very much aware of what other VCIO tools can do, right? And then I'm also very much aware of how CloudRadial is kind of a catch-all. It's kind of the Swiss Army knife, as you probably hear us say all the time. So there's a mix of like that methodology we won't die by. Like partially we had to adopt it because, again, that's what we have to work with, right? We know we can't focus fire all of our development all the time on the planner because we have to have the other stuff in our product the same or working, right? But we've overlooked the planner for the longest time, not out of neglect or whatever, because we knew, like I said before, the integration thing with the PSA. So everything Jared said is right. Like I fundamentally agree with it. That's why I've been working here. But you also have to be realistic and go like, okay, so I don't want to do double work if I can avoid it. Like methodology is fine, but double work sucks. I want to make sure that, like, again, a lot of the other VCIO tools focus super heavily on the assessment component, which is not bad. It's not a bad idea, right? And we have our own assessment tool, but really it's like, I know fundamentally how that stuff gets broken out into the conversation. And the issue that we know that people get into, maybe I'll run my onboarding one. Do I have an onboarding one? I only have NIST. There we go. We know that a lot of times what happens with these bad boys is that they are far too complex for the average Joe. Not everybody. Again, we know that there's a lot of MSPs out there that have actual account management. Sometimes they have assessment teams, they have whatever. That drives, like, you have the assessors, they drive the VCIOs. So everybody does it a little bit different. So you've got some MSPs that are totally fine doing the high level approach, and that's a good thing for clients. You got some MSPs that are dealing with compliance officers, they're dealing with people breathing down their necks, C-level positions at the customers that, like, they can't really do it. So from a product standpoint, what we're doing right now, and I'll give you the big vision for us, is to not necessarily even keep up or compete with the other VCIO tools, to make sure that we keep our methodology of, like, how do you keep something simple and give it more depth? How do you make it super easy to get to without making it just a giant blowout of features all over the place? We want to start off with something that's going to help us scale. So first things first is the immediate future for the planner is we are doing our expansion of the quarters, right? And we're doing that for a strategic reason. One, because 1 year is typically not even enough for most, mature organizations to plan out, but also because we have plans to integrate it with PSAs and other project management systems to make sure that you're not, like, bi-directional sync means that you don't necessarily have to rely on that. And I don't know if you have anything to show, but I know we have something to talk about. Evan, you got anything to talk about that?
You want me just to go? I mean, I can go through. Sorry, I'm reading these comments too.
I see the 55 number and I'm like, I haven't cracked it yet. But...
Am I? Yeah, sorry guys. I'm not. It's not that I'm not responding. I'm also trying to pay attention to Ricky. So say that one more time.
I was just saying, do you want to talk about because Evan's been sketching it out. We've obviously talked about it together about the planner upgrade, the immediate future upgrade.
Oh yeah. So, I mean, one of the questions in here, do you prefer planner quarter offset to continue or not? It's a very misleading question, Ricky. It's more, do you prefer, so we're expanding the timeline, right? So we ran into this question of right now, if you notice how our timeline functions, it's not based on like dates. It's based on, you can almost think of these as releases or iterations, like when is this going to be released? So similar to other project management tools, you're basically moving things manually in most project management tools. So right now, if we expand the timeline, we're trying to figure out, okay, what happens when, or what do we want, what do our customers want to happen when the quarter changes and the project's not complete? Because right now, if you notice, when you put something in the install, if you say something's installed, and I know some of you are asking, like, well, what happens? I want to know when something's installed, and I want to know the date when something's installed. We do plan on being able to break out more data for like historical tracking. We don't have it in the near future, and by near future, I literally mean in the next month or so. But the plan overall, to go with Ricky, is like, well, in order for you to have alignment, you need to be able to track almost everything in general to be able to say, like, hey, when were all these installed? Were all these installed at the right date? So right now, how the planner is more of, again, it's a high level approach as is, and these aren't dates, these are releases. So if you have things on the planner in the quarters, that's where they are, and you can see them in the sales matrix. If you have something in recommended, there's no date tied to recommended, it's just recommended. And if you have something installed, there's no date for when it's been installed, it's just in the installed state. Someone did ask earlier, I'll answer it now. Right now, if you have something installed and you don't want on the planner, the best option is to right-click it and move it to options. It'll stay in the installed state under options, but until which we have tentative, or I don't know, it's hard for me to promise anything, but we do have plans to start being able to track historical data for for these kind of state changes or things like that, to make sure like at least when something's declined, when something's installed, when something was created, those kinds of things. So the reason why we asked you about keep the offset or get rid of the offset is if we keep the offset, that means that every time a quarter changes, if you haven't moved something to installed, the entire planner, all the items will shift over. So if something in Q2 doesn't get complete by Q3, that will then move into Q3, and then all the other items after that will also move. Any items before that technically would probably keep moving. Yeah, so basically any item in the roadmap area would continue moving if it's not moved to the installed column. Because of the way that we manage this roadmap, until we can break out the data to be a list and then turn it into something with like a Gantt chart and things like that, we have to utilize the way the functionality of the planner is now. So if we get rid of the offset, what that'll do is give you the ability to schedule specific dates. They'll show up in the quarter. And when the quarter changes, those will stay in the date and the quarter unless you manually move.
Right. Which is, I want to chime in and say, the reason that's a big distinction is because when we say we're doing our multi-year planner, we're not doing a 3-5 year, we're doing like kind of unlimited in either direction, which means that by doing specific dates, again, this is a strategic play because it's not just going like, well, I can now throw June 1st, 2024 on the planner. Awesome. If you want to integrate with your project management tools and you want to make sure you can drive stuff, your project management tools have, and I'll use like ConnectWise because I know I study that a lot. It has mandatory dates. So it's like for us, it's not just a cool thing to go like, we really want to start throwing numbers in here. It's like, if I want to start matching the things that you have and you want to manage it from one place, I need it to show up pretty and correct in another. The quarter offset thing is a visual, it's a question mark for us because we go like, again, this is where a planner and a project management tool kind of butt heads, because a planner is this, you're just like, well, we have that plan. Project management tool, you start dropping dates, you start dropping like, here's what we're doing. So it's kind of more high level. And also remember that, like Jared said, this isn't just you're pulling in stuff from one place. We're mixing, we're kind of doing a data mashup of the stuff that you have planned as like an actual project, like high level objectives. You might start throwing in stuff from in here into the planner, which means that like the data can come from within CloudRadial. It can, and we want it to, right? We want the clients to be able to collaborate and say, I want this thing done, or talk about it. And then you hammer out the details, because if we as CloudRadial can kind of really work on and really try to refine the process of collaboration with clients and make that our shtick, that's what we're after. The best way to do that, as Evan's saying, is like, it kind of depends. And that's why we need to know how people really expect or want CloudRadial to function. If it should be shifting things over to always look right, or should they be like a project management system where it's like, yep, this is overdue. Till you change it, who knows? So that's kind of the nature of the quarter offset question.
Right, and Keith had a really great point here. If you allow us to see the old quarters, I would suggest that you ditch installed. So
sure,
we're going to take that into consideration, but you might understand that that's going to drastically change the entire way the planner works. So it's something that we have to take a little longer for. We're trying to be able to manipulate all the data that we create with the planner and expand it more. And it's possible that we may be able to utilize something like a Gantt chart and have this as a view. And we may have to decide to manipulate statuses. It's something we have to look into. But yeah, I explaining the concept a lot of times to people is like, these aren't dates, these are labels that I'll also tie to the sales matrix. So like, you know, when you move something to a different quarter, they're not changing the date, it's just changing the way where it is on the roadmap. So the roadmap as it is now, this might actually be the roadmap, and the planner might have more, it will have more features in the long run. We just can't do it all at once, or else we would be focusing the next year just on one piece of CloudRadial.
Which is, again, is why, to wrap or back around, which is why we wanted to push our Portal 365 things now. So that Portal 365 offering, again, tell your homies, especially the ones that are trying to get into it, is super important, because we know that to do this right, we need to be able to fund it properly to actually put a bunch of time and effort. I can't cut the development of all my other features, because then everybody who uses the portal who wants the polish doesn't get it, because now we're super focused on being a QBR tool. We do all the other stuff. So it's like there is a 22 to CloudRadial. So that Portal 365, again, is our strategy to try to drum up the basics while we focus on this stuff. There's a very clear reason why we're doing Planner, Portal 365. It all kind of ties in for us, but we know that there's a misstep. There's a lot of missteps you could do here and make this thing kind of like lame, not that useful. And again, we can't necessarily even go after QBR VCIO tools because even though obviously like, yeah, there's definitely a QBR capability here, though the approach is genuinely different. It is a very different approach. And therefore we have to make sure that our planner, even though we can make it a little bit more technical, still sticks to the fact that it is in a client portal. This is not meant for the client to have to necessarily see all the stuff, all the guts. We just want to make sure that it ties in nicely. So I'll say this too, because I know I promised it, because we have so many things to talk about and think about. Something that we're going to talk about next month, I'll flash this and I'll bring back the planner and hopefully I can answer a couple questions. I know we went really far at
It's
this.
already, it's already one.
I know. Sorry, guys. Quick one. This is a completely separate thing, but support asked me to bring this up just because a lot of people don't know. If there's anything that you guys are seeing, slowdowns, you think there's something wrong with it, don't forget to check status of CloudRadial. A lot of people, I don't think, are subscribed to it. It's super helpful. We do, especially our current support team is really, really good about keeping this stuff updated. So if there's even an inkling of doubt whether something's working or not, check this first. This will probably tell you, but if not, again, you can sign up, subscribe to it. So at least you know if CloudRadial's acting funky. But what I was going to say, my last thing is next month, based on what people have said, we're going to talk about assessments, similar thing where it's like a mixture of rationale, jam, firing range, because I love getting shot at. And then also talking about alignment, which is the big thing. Alignment is what we're aiming for. So again, the planner, excuse my shuffle, the planner is part of that alignment conversation. So the big vision that we're going for here for ourselves and for hopefully all of our partners is that like, if I can get the planner aligned, we can get the policies more flexible, which is something else we'll talk about probably in the assessments. We can basically ingest more data from more sources. The ultimate vision is to give an account manager, maybe one of, somebody who's running the MSP to some degree, a big view of not just like a sales matrix, but like really, where are we at with clients? What's the big to do? Like, give me a snapshot of what there is to do for a client, with a client, the dangers, the opportunities, whatever, and make CloudRadial a pretty sweet client dashboard. I can only do that if we start backwards with stuff like this. I need to know what their big plans are. I need to know what their big issues are. I need to know what tickets they have and all the other stuff to turn it into a command console, but a proper one, right? And we started with Client Portal first on purpose to make sure that that client experience is set. So instead of going command console with a little bit of portal, we always wanted to go client experience with command console backed into it. And that's what we're working on. So this stuff's super important. Again, I know we have so many comments and literally no time. Promise I'll answer, but this is the stuff that we need your help on, because if that sounds good to you or that sounds wrong to you, now is the time before we take too much time diving into it. And this is why the planner stuff is, I appreciate genuinely the buzz and like the chit chat and discourse, even if it sucks, I need to hear it, right? I need that in my face.
Yeah, feature requests. I need you to vote. You guys need to vote.
It's easier now. It's hard to say feature requests with a straight face before when we were a smaller company. It's easy when Evan now is like, I'm reading them and I talk about them every month. And you'll see Evan going like, cool thing, James. I saw that last month. I saw that, James. I saw that come through and look at me, talk to me.
Yeah, if it's not written down, if it's not written down in my mind, like it just goes away quick.
Okay. So again, for the sake of time, everybody, I know we usually are pretty good about the bants back and forth in the chat, but this time I monopolized. There's a lot of stuff to think about. If you've watched this and you're either, you didn't get enough to say and we didn't have enough discourse, whatever, again, I'm downloading all the chats and the Q&A and stuff, and I'll put that out. There's also going to be the poll I'll do in app. If you're not seeing it right now, I should still be screen sharing. That in-app stuff happens here. It's this little newspaper thingy. It pops up. This is our in-app thing. It'll tell you, like click here to do the survey, click here to whatever. Any more thoughts pop up, you can always answer that too. But again, we'll definitely go back in and have more stuff come of this. I like to do more expanded versions of these, especially if there's a lot of discourse like there is here. So keep up with it. Again, I'm thankful for you guys.
For sure.
Okay. That being said, let me download the chat and then get on with the day. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you joining us for May's, and I'll catch you for June.
Hey, guys.
Have a great one.
Bye. I'm going to download the poll results first before those go away, and I feel bad. There we go. Got them. All right. Now, bye, guys.